Hey everybody, Madison here with Health by Ratio, and in this video we are going to talk about the number one key to truly strengthen our so important core. Our team at Health by Ratio consists of licensed physical therapists, orthopedic movement specialists, and functional movement coaches that work together online to create holistic programs for our clients so they can bridge the gap away from chronic and recurring pains to rehabilitate back toward full ranges of stable motion and the fitness and activities that they love most. By now, we've pretty much all heard that strengthening the core is incredibly important. It's incredibly important for like everything, whether you're dealing with a foot injury or a knee injury or a hip or a back or an upper back or a neck or a shoulder. The core matters for everything. It's the core. It's called the core for a reason. It even matters in everything we do day to day life in terms of how we perform and how we function, how we balance, how powerful we are. Everything relies on the core. So what the heck is the core? Well, the core is basically the entire torso, but for the purposes of what we're going to label it, we're going to say it's everything from the pelvic floor to the diaphragm. So it's this kind of chunk of change that we're talking about for the torso. You could make an argument that the shoulder girdle and upper back is part of the core as well. We're going to say for the purposes of this video that it's the pelvic floor to the diaphragm. The diaphragm is like the top of the lid of the cylinder, and the pelvic floor is like the bottom, and then we got all this musculature from the glutes to the lower back, all the way wrapping around the abdomen that create the actual sides of the cylinder, so to speak. So the number one thing to actually strengthen the core is we want to do exercises that involve the glutes. It is so important for us to utilize the glutes because the glutes and the big important internal core stabilizers are designed to work together in day-to-day life, whether we're bending over, whether we're walking, whether we're running, whether we're sitting down and standing up or squatting down to pick something up or deadlifting something off the ground. Everything in our day-to-day life involves core stabilizers and glutes working together. When the glutes don't fire very well, the core doesn't fire very well. When the core doesn't fire very well, the glutes don't fire very well. This matters in the stability of our entire body, but it matters in the actual performance and efficiency of our entire body. So this matters not only in injury rehabilitation, but it matters in actual fitness and athletic performance. So it's really important that we do exercises that strengthen the entire core, including our big, powerful butt musculature. And many of our go-to exercises that we think of as our core are actually abdominal exercises or even hip flexor exercises that work this specific part of the quote-unquote core, which is the rectus abdominis, the six-pack muscle that we all care about so much. But the six-pack muscle by itself isn't all that functional, and it doesn't make that much of a difference for us. It's kind of like us spending a bunch of time doing bicep curls. Yeah, that's not that functional in our day-to-day life. It might be more functional to be doing it in a pulling type of motion and working our bicep that way, because then we're doing it with other muscle groups like we would in real life. But just sitting down and doing a bunch of bicep curls isn't so functional. Well, laying down and doing a bunch of crunches or sit-ups, also not all that functional. It's not to say we can never do them. It's not to say there isn't a use for doing some crunches or doing some sit-ups, but it just shouldn't be our always main go-to. It's not something that's all that functional. Just like we shouldn't always be doing bicep curls, like unless you really specifically want to just develop your bicep for aesthetic purposes, kind of thing. We want to do things that are going to wake up the glutes. Well, another example that we consistently do as a core exercise is often things like butterfly kicks or leg lifts. And again, this is something that isn't all that functional. It doesn't use the glutes at all. It uses mostly the hip flexors and a little bit of the core musculature. It's more hip flexors than anything on this. But when we're talking about engaging the core properly, like I said, we want to wake up the glutes. So exercises that we can wake the glutes up in. Now we have to often focus on this. It's not something that just naturally happens. We got to kind of focus on turning on the glutes a little bit, are one, plank variations, and we've all done probably multiple different kinds of planks. There's 100 different kinds of planks out there, probably more. But when we're doing a plank of some kind, we want to think about squeezing our glutes, waking them up a little bit. Or if I'm in a plank here, I want to think about engaging my glutes a little bit. It helps me work the core stabilizers that much more. Exercises like chops, where there's a lot of different variations to them. There's free weight chops where we're holding on to something like a medicine ball or a dumbbell and we're chopping through the body. Well, that down leg, I want to think about squeezing this glute as I'm doing it. It helps me wake up my obliques that much more, my core stabilizers that much more. Or other chops would be like a band chop or a cable chop where we're doing like a rotation, like a wood chop type motion. Well, again, I'm going to use that glute as I'm driving through, and I'm going to wake up that core that much more. So didn't realize that it didn't intend to rhyme there, but yeah, worked. Then going for things like anti-rotation. This is like fighting the rotational component. Same thing though. I'm waking up that glute complex. The main key for me to train the functional stability of my core is using my glutes. Now, one more question we want to ask ourselves when we're in a situation where we're doing a functional, quote unquote, core exercise that we should be able to wake up our glutes on, but they're not engaging. We can't feel them working as we're doing this exercise. Is then we need to look at what's going on in the body that's potentially preventing the glutes from firing correctly in the first place. It's more common than not where things that are happening down at the ankles, that are affecting positions at the hips, or things that are happening up at the thoracic spine are impacting the glutes even capabilities of engaging. And so if that's the case, we need to address any potential mobility restrictions or imbalances that are occurring that allow the glutes to fire again. And again, this could be where the majority of the root causes of our dysfunctions and injuries and pains are coming from. So when we address this, we not only perform better, but we heal better as well. So that's the number one secret. Wake up your glutes when you're doing quote unquote core exercises. And if you can't wake your glutes up, then it's probably not that functional of a core exercise. All right, guys, if you have any questions on this video, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you're like, hey, what about this exercise? Or what about that one? Let us know. I'd be happy to get back to you. Or if you want some more one-on-one coaching, we're always happy to help. My team and I offer 2 free consultation calls. The first one is just to get to know you. It's a relatively quick call, but the second call is over video, where you and I, yours truly, connect over a video and we go through a whole plethora of assessments to see how and why your body is moving the way that it is. And the purpose of these calls is to create a game plan so that you can get your body moving back towards full ranges of stable motion and what specific exercises and or mobility techniques you need to do to achieve those goals.